Welcome to FOBtv, the future of business. I'm your host, Kevin Benedict. I'm a futurist here at TCS, and I want to thank each of you for joining us for the show today. I'm really excited to introduce a friend of mine. His name is Tom Thimot, and Tom is a brilliant veteran Silicon Valley executive who has made a career out of building, leading, and supporting successful startups. And he is now the CEO of Supply Wisdom. So we're going to get some of that wisdom shared with us today. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
So where are you calling in from?
I am in Atlanta, Georgia, meeting with partners and customers here today.
Awesome. That's what startup CEOs do, don't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I've watched you through your career lead and grow actually an impressive number of startups out there. So I want to pick your brains because not everyone can do that repeatedly. And I think that's the skill that I'm most impressed that you have, Tom, is your repeated ability to help a company pivot from where they were as a startup and then lead them as they grow and mature. And that's a huge challenge. So what's your secret?
Well, I think first is the companies that I choose to spend my time with. You know, there's only a few things that really matter when it comes down to making a successful early stage company. One, do you have something unique? Is there something unique that you offer, a product, a service, and does it have a barrier to entry that others can't very easily copy it? And then does it have a huge market? You want to make sure that you can grow into a massive market because this is all about, creating shareholder value. Mm-hmm. And finally, do you have a good team in place already that, maybe has fallen into some of the traps that I think I've seen in every founder-led company. I love working with founders. They're all brilliant. They all have some way that they're going to change the world, but in some ways they can't help themselves, because they got that little drawer in their desk that has a lot of shiny objects in it. And they love to just pull them out and look and, distract the company going to something different and changing direction a lot. And what makes an early stage company successful is focus. Pick 2 to 3 things within your overall thesis that you do really well and just do them over and over and over again and be maniacal about it. And that's the biggest lesson I would give to any early stage company CEO is focus. That's the most important thing.
Wow. So I imagine with somebody with your level of expertise and success record that you've had the opportunity to review a lot of different portfolios of startups, but you selected Supply Wisdom. So what did you see there that inspired you?
Well, first, what was I saying before? Do they have something really unique? Is there a macro trend that they clearly are at the front of and that they've really invented something that's different? Also, do they have a large market to serve? So those things were in place. Plus, we had a great team before I arrived. And really, we also had an important use case for probably, by the way, the 2 most overused letters in the alphabet, A and I, which, let's face it, data and data analytics has been around since they invented the relational databases. It's just been able to get more and more sophisticated because the volume of data we can process is that much more. Mm-hmm. I saw Supply Wisdom. Supply Wisdom is a company that basically every minute of every day is absorbing the entire internet, everything that's public about every company on the planet, and distilling it down using machine learning features, using AI or data analytics to basically say, what's important? What's the sentiment behind this? There's a typhoon in the Philippines. What does that mean for your call centers in the Philippines? The Houthis are firing rockets at ships going through the Red Sea. What does that mean for your supply chain? And there's a bridge in Baltimore that has just fallen. What does that mean for things that have to move across that bridge? And there's just so many use cases, and there's endless data. And probably the most frustrating tool in the world to work with is the Google search engine, because it just tells you too much, and it doesn't really distill it, and it doesn't tell you it in the context of what it means for your business. That's basically what we do. We absorb the entire internet, we distill it down into what matters, and we give you an early warning system that, hey, you have a consolidation of call centers in the Philippines. And when one gets taken out by that typhoon, probably all of them are going to get taken out. And oh, your backup supplier, they also go through the Strait of Hormuz.
Wow.
So these are the things that we use, great technology to determine what's important, to determine the sentiment around it, and to give you that early warning system. And that's what's exciting about what we're doing at Supply Wisdom. We can do that better than anyone else.
So you have all kinds of ways of doing that. You consume the internet and you look for what's meaningful to supply chain. That's awesome. But what do your clients do with that information? So if you give them a 40-page bullet point list of all the problems in the world, that's it can be easily overlooked which one is actually impacting something. Right. So what do they do with it? How do your users consume that data?
Well, let's look at the way that our clients typically do the function of evaluating suppliers today. Once a year, they take out a spreadsheet that has 300 rows in it, maybe 500 rows, and it has questions in it. Everything imaginable, from how much cash do you have in the bank, to how profitable are you, to what all your cyber protections are, what's your cyber history, how are you in compliance, how are you in, who are your nth parties, the people that supply materials to your suppliers, all these things. And they send them around to all their new suppliers or anyone that's up for renewal or annually just to do a review. And they have them fill them out. And they take the spreadsheet and they typically send it off to an offshoring entity that then evaluates and grades the answers that are on the spreadsheet. And then comes back and says, this is a good supplier, this is a bad supplier. And, given the power of internet technologies, data analytics, the internet, this is a crazy way to do it, but believe it or not, that's the way the majority do it. And the only improvement they've really made is, instead of Excel assessments, they now call them shared assessments. Well, because they share in the information that they collect on spreadsheets. And it's getting marginally more effective and efficient, but we take that entire process and blow it up and just basically say, no, you need to be monitoring everything about every supplier continuously. You need to know within seconds when something has gone wrong so that you can adjust your business. And where the data analytics come in is not, you're never going to predict that the Scott Keys Bridge is going to fall down in Baltimore, but you are able to predict what's going to happen after it does. What does it mean to the suppliers? Have I tagged all the suppliers in that broader location? Do I know immediately that these are the 35 companies that I do business with that are going to be impacted by that? And I ought to devote my energy into figuring out what I'm going to do next. And no spreadsheet is going to give you an early warning system to what to do after the bridge falls down or the typhoon hits. And that's what we do, is we're going to alert you within seconds. There's something wrong. You've got to do something for your business. And then we're going to help you work through what the options are, who are the other suppliers, et cetera, that you could be using for this. And that's what's very unique about Supply Wisdom.
Got it. So let's talk about sustainability, because that's another important thing to some people. But on that subject, is having a sustainable supply chain, is that really a business driver today, or is that more of a marketing pitch? What do you hear?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a marketing pitch. I mean, the reality is we see more and more titles of head of resilience. One of the regulations that drives a large part of our business is called DORA, not Dora the Explorer, the Digital Operational Resiliency Act. And what that says is you have to know each of your suppliers and their suppliers and know if they're going to be resilient when something bad happens, whether it's geopolitical, whatever it is. And, ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that your business is resilient. And you're never going to be foolproof, but being one step ahead when something happens, it's what's most important. And we help companies to keep their businesses resilient by having something happened. These are the suppliers that are impacted. These are the things that you ought to be thinking about and doing. Think of us as a canary in the coal mine that's going to tell you something wrong. And no shared assessment Excel spreadsheet is going to do that.
Got it. Now, I think over half of people on the internet today get their news through social media. Is that something you guys are tapping into as well? And if so, how?
I look at social media is rarely the news itself. It is just a presentation of the news that someone else either recorded, a broadcast, news they picked up. And the problem is there's so much bias in everything nowadays. And just tell me the facts. The typhoon's headed to Manila. Okay, when's it going to hit? All this information is available through multiple different sources without all the grandiose overplaying, so that I can relay that to our customers and they can know that there may be something they need to do about their suppliers that are in that location. And yes, everything that's on the public internet gets repurposed into social media. But they're all echo chambers. And so we try to go to the true source. We try to always make sure there's two or more sources. We have data analytics that ensures that the sentiment, that we're analyzing the sentiments in the multiple different sources. So we have a quick and clear read on what's happening.
Oh man, that's just a lot of work. I can imagine that. So one of the things that your team does is help your customers track progress toward their sustainability goals, and then of course identify opportunities to improve that. But in all the different projects related to the future of supply chain and stuff that I get involved in, there's a lot of time people are questioning the standards. Like there's not even everybody's kind of making up their own criteria. What do you guys do to get around that, where you can grade somebody based on some kind of standard? So how are you guys making up your own? Are you helping somebody make one, or how's that work?
Well, we obviously have our own proprietary methodology on how we try to rate suppliers, rate locations. It's not just suppliers, it's the positions around the globe that they do business in, and it's so many different risk domains. But the reality is we work with our clients to make sure that they understand the way that we rate things, and they can decide where that balance is between something that's critical that I must stop everything in the business to address, and something that I need to pay attention to. That's why I have a risk ops team, or things that are just, they're noise. And in our numbers, our analytics, we show that 98.5% of all risk events, things that some people or some search engines, some social media outlets would say, oh my God, the sky is falling. 98.5% of the time, it's low to medium risk, something that you really don't have to focus on. And it's only that 1.5% of the time that it's high risk, that it could be a threat, and 0.1% where it really is something that's absolutely critical, lights out critical to your business. Spend your energy there. Don't waste your time on things that the internet is full of noise. Social media is full of noise. And that's probably the most important thing we do, is we siphon out the noise. And we like to put it in little traffic lights. We're the ones that are going to tell you when the light is green, you can just approve that supplier. You can renew that supplier. You can expand that initiative with the supplier. You can acquire that company. You are safe to do business, and you ought to be able to make that decision in seconds. Sadly, because of these small percentages of when some type of event or risk element is really critical, you slow your entire business down. You put it through a bureaucracy that takes weeks or months to make a decision. And that slowing of your business is the most harmful thing. And that's why we say to our customers, our slogan is rethink your approach to risk and unlock revenue. Because almost always a new supplier has revenue attached to it. Some P&L owner is saying, I need this to bring revenue and profit to this company. And when you make them wait 3, 6, 9 months to have that, you slow your own company's ability to achieve revenue and profit growth. And that's what we focus on.
Wow. So, do companies that you're working with ever ask you to find suppliers that you might have already rated highly in the past, or is that something for the future?
Well, here's the thing, the widget they're making or the software they're writing or the service they're outsourcing, we are not experts in those things.
Yeah.
What we are experts in is examining and filtering the information about a company and distilling it down to what is risk and what is not.
Yeah.
And so, if you're manufacturing something, you're going to know better the fastener that needs to go into it. If you're providing a service and you need to outsource some of that, you're going to know better what you need. What we do, though, is once you've decided that these are the pool of suppliers I'm going to use, we're going to alert you when there's troubles. We're going to alert you when something could be wrong. And we're also going to give you that green light and say, don't do that exhaustive 6-month review. Approve the supplier now.
Wow, fascinating. So one of the challenges, of course, in a business in your domain is that every time you reach into a new industry, that industry may have its own set of standards that it wants to follow. And then you're like, oh, wait, man, we can't do everything all at once. We're a startup. So
Yep.
where are you focusing your time and how do you think about going into a new industry with a whole set of new standards?
Well, I mean, what we're focused on first is making sure that every available source of information about a supplier that we have access to. And once again, we use all publicly available
Yeah.
data. We are not, gathering proprietary data. There's all sorts of privacy laws that you get that get in the way of, and most of what you need to tell whether a company is risky or not is available in the public realm. And you just have to have the tools to know where to look for it. And then also, most importantly, siphon out the things that just don't matter or that are noise. And so there are regulatory bodies all around the globe, stronger in some countries than others. As you can imagine, the European Union is stricter than the United States, and they all have different standards, and we are careful to comply with them. But once again, we're not going to tell you choose supplier B versus A because, of the shipping lane they use or the place that they provide their service. We're going to suggest to you that there's greater risk with A than there is with B, and then you make the decision. And that's where we stay very, very careful to, we're not in the business of choosing suppliers. We're in the business of alerting you when there are potential issues with a supplier.
Got it. So as a futurist, I really like to pick the brains of all the experts that are on the show here. So I want to do the same with you, Tom, if that's okay. Let's look
Absolutely.
into the future of supply chain management. How do you think it's going to evolve over the next 5 to 10 years? How will it be different if we looked at it from that perspective?
Yeah, I joked earlier, I said, the two most overused letters in the alphabet are A and I. But the reality is this is a phenomenal use case for predictive analytics, or AI, as everyone likes to call it. There's a ton of information. There's a ton of people that decipher and use that information in very inefficient ways. Assessments and spreadsheets, sending data around the globe in a static format, rather than leveraging the power of the internet and the power of data analytics engines to distill it. So this is a space that's going to have massive disruption. And by that, I simply mean that the armies of people that do this today are going to be replaced by artificial intelligence that's going to do this. And the smart ones realize it, and they say, wait a second, I can use these people I have in risk operations to take my abilities to the next level, to truly unlock the revenue in my company and, ensure that in minutes I'm approving suppliers and new initiatives so the business can move faster and more nimbly. And, across such a broad range of industries, people today are finding places where are there manually intensive, data intensive processes, and they are replacing them with sophisticated data analytics engines. And the supply chain is one of the places that's going to be heavily disrupted because the technology is there to evaluate all the information on the planet, distill it down into what matters at for your supplier and in the locations that they operate, and provide that information to the company so that the company can make business decisions very, very quickly. And that's the most important thing that's coming. And Supply Wisdom is the early leader and first mover to really make this possible. And I hope that those that evaluate this space and evaluate solutions here will understand that this is a tool so that your risk operations team can work together to make your approval of new suppliers even faster and even better. And those people can be deployed to do things other than look at assessments and spreadsheets all day long. So that's what I'm most excited about this, the automation, the analytics, the ability to really help companies be more nimble and fast.
Awesome. Tom, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin.